everyone. Welcome to our podcast. How's everybody doing on a Wednesday afternoon?
Very busy, onboarding very big customers and very big projects, but all good stuff.
Yeah, same. Like we are moving ahead, making a lot of progress, doing a lot of stuff. So Wednesday is good.
Yeah, every day is a big day for us here at Kwant, and I really appreciate you guys taking time from your busy day to do this podcast and share what's happening in the market, what's happening in the industry, and this is a chance and opportunity for us to share what we talk about internally on a daily basis. I really wanted to put it out in the world how some of our internal conversation happens, because some of the conversations that we have internally are so interesting. I really thought that this should be heard by the world, and this is now a chance to for the world to get into a peek into our into how Kwant innovates and how Kwant thinks about the market, and share that with the world as well. So John, I know that you said that you had a busy day. Tell me about it. What was your day like?
Oh man, there's just unlimited things to build and unlimited amounts of insights to generate and reports. And recently we've noticed our customers turning their attention more and more towards the data that we're capturing on projects, which is a great thing. So it's good to be busy and working with them to generate those types of reports. So that's exciting because we are capturing a lot of data and we want to make sure that it's used to its full potential. So it's been a little bit of that, a little bit of projects kicking off left and right, large programs, not just some small ones here and there. It's these large, massive data center projects that are going to be coming up more and more that I'm sure we'll talk about. And then a little bit of building too internally, some software development on our side and the CS side, not even on the product side, So we're just building so much right now.
Yeah, I see there's a big momentum in the market. I've seen the market go through different phases, and I really see the change in the market and a tone in our conversation that we have with our customers, where just the adoption and the interest to use AI and to use AI for safety, for productivity is just every conversation I have is which is what we've been pushing for last several years, and suddenly we don't even have to push. It's I sit down on a table for a meeting and they're like, wow, this is exactly what we're looking for, and that's what they tell us. So I think we're in very interesting times in the market for construction tech. And for data center as well, John, I know that data center that you were talking about was something that are a very massive build out, right? These are not these are billions of dollars being spent right now. And I'm sure that you have a lot under your plate to take these customers on board. Yeah, awesome, man. And are you using any technologies right now to augment your team?
We're using a lot of Claude right now. We're also using a little bit of ChatGPT just to supplement it with their capabilities. Each one has its strengths, each one has some weaknesses, so it's good to have a few options. We're creating agents to help us, scrape through some of the correspondence that we're doing. Yeah. Not just to make us more efficient, but also to increase the quality of our work. I think that's the number one thing, is that the quality of our work is now, we're seeing an improvement. And I think that it really took a turn, or it has accelerated earlier this year with some of the recent models that came out, especially with Anthropic. We've seen a pretty big difference between earlier this year and now. I find myself using these models more and more every single day. So it's very exciting. It's a very exciting time to be alive. You're in a time where basically anything can be built from a software standpoint, and now everyone's asking for these reports. So it's a good combination of things that makes it very exciting.
How are you using AI to augment your day-to-day?
Yeah, on the product side, we use a lot of the world of SaaS is changing. I won't say SaaS is dead, like how people say. It's definitely changing. Products are getting more simplified. The interfaces are changing, how people react with products. So we do continuously innovate how we can improve the whole product experience using AI. So there are two different segments of how we use AI. What are we building for the end users, and how are we using AI in our internal team. So for the internal team, we use a lot of, for the QA automation, we use a lot of AI services. We have integrations built into AWS Bedrock, where we can plug it into any model that we feel like is more optimized for which kind of resource. And we use Cloud Code, Cursor, and other services to help us on the coding side of things. Like to increase productivity. We are not trying to replace some of the services or anything right now. At this
Yeah.
point of time, we are just looking into like how we can expedite, increase productivity with the current team.
Yeah. And what are some of the coolest Claude things that I should learn? Because I'm using Claude for research, right? I'm using Claude to do research. I'm using Claude to do my reports and also to look into my business insights and market intelligence right now. But what are the key hacks that I could learn from you or the world could learn from you, John? Like it seems like we're running out of credits almost every day here. So what are these key things that we could use in Claude for?
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm talking to people that are burning like. I spoke to someone earlier this week with Kay actually that's burning. He said he burned like $60,000 worth of credits in 1 month, and that just blows my mind. But when you have a good use for it, I mean, when it comes to like QA, like Jay was saying, that's a really good use for it, doing those types of testing. Some things that I found though with some of the stuff that I'm building internally here at Kwant is that the architecture and the structure of your Claude documentation, your Claude files in your code base is just as important as the things that you're trying to have it help you build because it has to reference itself. There's limitations on context right now. We're talking about like going through a lot of tokens. When you have these like million token context windows that you get from maybe an enterprise agreement, that's going to burn a ton of tokens when you have just doing simple tasks. So having it structured in your code base to reference the right agents, reference the right Claude MD files, even Claude local. It can basically pick up the information it needs. It has content design guidelines. It has everything it needs to basically build what you're looking for it to build, so you don't have to keep going back and iterating and everything. And then also having a good product requirements document or just some sort of a scoping document for it to reference. Because the issue isn't going to be with what it built or it's building it, the issue is going to be with the scope that you gave it. So if it starts building things that are just completely off scope, you need to go back to your scoping documents and update it and keep that updated as well. I find that that's probably the most important thing that I've learned so far. To the point where I even created a plugin without realizing there's probably 1,000 out there. I just spent like a couple of nights. I created a plugin, I published it to the marketplace, I downloaded it, and then I started using it and the idea was just for it to help me optimize my Claude file structure. Not anything to do with the code base, right? It has to like read it to understand what we're trying to build, but then it basically tells you where the gaps are in your Claude file structure, as well as like codecs as well. You can supplement it that way. But I definitely should have researched that a little more before I built it because I could have saved a lot of time. But it's fun to be able to do stuff like that.
Yeah, one thing that we were talking about was how now Claude is building a database of all your knowledge base, and I think it's called skills. And I think they've transitioned that to somewhere else now, but how it can reference the source of your company's brand guidelines or your key parameters and then bring it up for all the reports and all the queries that you do in the next time. Construction could have same thing for the future, right? Where with all the past project can live in that database, and if anybody is doing an estimation, anybody is doing a scheduling, anybody is adding a worker or trying to manage a safety incident, like it can refer back to the knowledge base and see, hey, this is how it was done before. What do you want to do with that, right? I don't think anybody has built that yet, because I'm sure even Anthropic and we've explored design guidelines and different kind of like UI tools that we explore. I think that this is still in the early phase of exploration, but that's probably where the future can be. Jay, do you see that use case in the design and product world where are we able to reference our brand guidelines and expedite some of these designs?
Yeah, no, so interestingly, Claude came up with a design module recently. They do have an integration, like you can access Claude Opus 4.6, 4.7 within Figma, which already allowed you to do that. Like you can plug into your design system, create new design flows and screen. Claude themselves came up with a system where you can actually import your Figma. We already do that, where you can import your design system, Figma files for it to understand.
Yeah.
Is it able to actually replicate what you want to do in the exact design copy? Not yet. Maybe soon. Like I was having a conversation with someone from some Big Four and Microsoft, and their point was that, okay, they do see AI helping right now in the development work, but they have seen that there is a limited use case in the design world right now, not because it cannot design, but because the amount of tokens that you burn actually equates to the hiring a resource and doing it yourself. So that's where they're seeing a restriction, because the amount of token burn is so high. It's actually equal to having a resource on your team and doing those things for you. Yeah, probably like I think Anthropic came out with an update of how to manage context windows and all those things. So they are optimizing it, and in future, obviously, the cost will drastically reduce. Like I remember when GPT-3 came out, the cost of 1 million context window versus the 1 million context window right now is there is a huge difference. So probably that will keep on changing.
Yeah, talking about the tokens, the amount of infrastructure that are currently being built, and then the market calls it AI build or AI infrastructure build, they call it, in the stock market world. It's just so massive that it's when will the cost ever go down? Because the investments are now at $600 billion with a revenue of $50 billion, 10x the investments they're making. And the race seems to be never ending. And I think it's a good time for us to segue into that topic of.
Yeah, like if even on that other point that you mentioned about that services within the construction company, I think Anthropic and Blackstone and some other Goldman Sachs and other large asset management companies have partnered up to bring like AI services within enterprises, within like medium scale enterprises, and how they can make it like core part of their business. So probably that will also keep on changing, and probably they will soon target construction companies because they are the proper medium enterprise kind of target groups where AI can do a lot.
Yeah, we all know that construction is sort of like the biggest thing in the venture world and in the market, right? It's like we've seen construction companies doubling their revenue. It's a gold rush with our industry. It's probably a topic we should talk about in the next one as well, where I've seen so many ancillary businesses being built around data centers right now that this is a fascinating topic. Yeah, I think we can even see Palantir coming to the world, right? And I know one of our biggest customer actually uses Palantir. And 2 years ago it was like, why are you guys using Palantir? And now we know why they're using Palantir, because they want to build upon. They don't want to use Procore. They don't want to use Ornix. They want to use Palantir's. I don't know. What is that models called? They have something on their own construction. Yeah.
Is it Paladin? Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's very interesting. I was trying to access their public earnings report last time, and apparently there was a lot of talk about construction, Palantir entering construction market. But to stay on our topic in terms of just how much the AI infrastructure is currently being built, So the report right now says that, there is about $600 billion of data centers that is planning to be built within the next 2 years, or actually this year, right? So, and we've seen that companies like major hyperscalers are all investing a lot into this CapEx build. And I want to share some of the reports here, and we can talk about what do you guys think about this. So this is one of the reports that I was able to generate, which says that these 4 hyperscalers have all reduced their free cash flow, right? Especially for if you look at Amazon, there was a massive decrease in the cash flow. Actually, I don't think that Amazon is here right now, but they've kind of had a huge dip in the free cash flow. You can see Alphabet here, which has a massive decrease in the free cash flow as well. Many of this money is now going into AI build, right? So they basically put majority of their investments into AI build right now. And we can also see here, this is the combined target this year in their budget for spending about $600 billion this year in data center infrastructure, for CapEx infrastructure they want to invest actually. Now, when you think about this topic comes up regularly where, they're spending $600 billion, but how much actually is getting built? Because we've seen that we've seen a massive amount of data centers getting canceled. So 30 to 50% of the data centers are getting canceled, right? So our estimate is that if we had $600 billion of data centers currently in the target by these hyperscalers, not including other players, just within these 4 or 5 hyperscalers, and even if you were to cancel 50% of that, that's still $300 billion of infrastructure they're planning to build. And I actually tried to do the maths in terms of how much gigawatts is that and how many data centers is that. And it was, $300 billion can build a lot of data centers basically, and I think that the market for next 1 or 2 years is still very open. So I want to hear from you, in terms of, do you think that this growth and these investments these hyperscalers are doing are sustainable, or this is all going to crash like in the olden times as like internet, all the dot-com boom or the railroad booms, or this is more like the different kind of, this has real results actually. What do you think, Jay?
I mean, if you look at it in terms of the order volume and like what is being produced, like the companies that are manufacturing those machines, the order volume on Micron, SanDisk, and everything is so high that they are sold out for this year. So yeah, like it's not like, even if it's a hype, it's not going to end like immediately. Like it's not going to burst like a dot-com bubble. There is an actual money flowing right now. So it doesn't look like a bubble. But in terms of like the data centers being like, yeah, there are around 50% of the data centers are already delayed or cancelled. Like there are local governments like in Indianapolis, there is a county that has restricted construction of data centers. Even I think Maine proposed a pause on
Correct.
building data centers till they figure out where are they getting the electricity from. So
Correct.
yeah, I think they might be slowed down, and I think even the processing chips and everything is getting more efficient, that they are able to process more data using smaller volumes required in data centers. So it's going to change. It's probably not going to stop for the next couple of years at least.
Yeah.
I love having this conversation with Jay. Sometimes I'll just walk in and I'll just start picking his brain about what he thinks about the next couple of years and basically where the future is in terms of the data that's being used and where these language models are going to be hosted. I think we've spoken before about small language models, but yeah, I mean, there's always limits to growth. Regardless of the market, there's always going to be limits to growth. And right now we're seeing basically a global effort in building these data centers because of the value that people are starting to realize or did realize, years ago, and now are starting to realize even more. Like myself, I found myself, I'm using AI probably at least twice as much as I was just a year ago. And that's only going to keep going up, right, with the capabilities that you're seeing, the connectors that you're seeing it come out with. It's connecting to every application I use, so why not keep connecting it to everything and optimizing everything we do. But what are your thoughts, Jay, on the small language models coming towards like local servers and locally hosted, even just hardware on your phone and stuff like that? Like, is that going to be a disruptor, and how far away are we from that?
Yeah, no, definitely that's going to bring a lot of change. Like if you think about it, like I was reading a report that Apple's expenditure on AI services is pretty low compared to any other major companies in the market right now, because they are focused on the device. Because the user needs an end device, the edge. Basically, the edge computing is what they are looking at to solve right now. Like the current AI integration what Apple offers, where you basically try to ask something, then it says, okay, should I ask ChatGPT? Then it runs through ChatGPT. It's not probably a long-term model that they're trying to look into. I think that edge device, basically having a device is an answer. Like small language models are a way to bridge that gap till the large language models. Like obviously not, I don't think anyone is planning to host a 70 billion parameter model in a phone right now. So yeah, small language models do provide that bridge, but they do come with a certain limitation that people don't expect. Like it can perform your day-to-day task on your phone and those things. Like let's say you are using Claude, right? If I reduce, like if I put you back now on GPT-3, what would be your reaction? It's similar to that. So like
Yeah, we definitely wouldn't use it as much.
exactly. So like it depends upon how they are planning to do it. But yeah, like I think we will have to wait and see that device evolution, at least for the time being.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah. I wonder where OpenAI's hardware, that there was so much buzz around one point, and they've hired John Ive to design something, and now, I don't know what's going on with that.
The 10-minute long teaser they sent out.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I heard there
I
was a
still haven't made it
lawsuit.
through the full video.
Yeah, there was this other company, right? I forgot the name that did that, like that pin kind of a device. What was the name?
Yeah.
Human AI
Human
or
human AI, humane.
yeah.
Human.
Like I think there was like when you read the reviews, like users have to wait now for an API call to fetch the data and everything. So I think yeah, that small language models does answer that some of that questions on how do you do edge computing.
Yeah. I think that there is definitely a market for small language and fine tuning, which, we hear about this all the time, right? Where it's from and claims from our friends in construction tech, where they claim that Claude cannot read your construction drawings. Open source LLMs cannot read your construction drawings to get an estimate. They have limitations, and this is why they should use our system, because open source cannot do this. And there's a fraction of the market which says, no, AI, the open source will read it. Like now, Claude has their own construction thing going on. I think Claude has plugged into I heard Autodesk and Revit now. I think that they're gonna just keep building more and more because you just have so much capital and resource to go and build some of these things. So that's gonna keep happening. But from a data infrastructure capex perspective, I think that for this next few years, the infrastructure boom is going to continue to happen because like we're all seeing the results. Like everybody in our team uses AI, so it's not something that will just go away. It just keep on increasing more and more.
But
it's
do you
still,
guys think like it does add a layer of distraction, like extra usage of AI, like the emails, people writing long chain emails and we using it to summarize it, then sending a feedback to it? Do you just feel that there isn't like a reduce in productivity, like due to overusage of AI?
John can answer that question, but I have my own thoughts around it.
I think about this quite often actually, because it's like the rocket equation sometimes where you're adding prettier and like better looking reports, but then when you look into the content, it's the exact same content, and you spend more time just tweaking the looks of it. So then there's and then you can get distracted pretty easily too. You notice when you're just like, oh, this is cool, I want to learn about this, and then it turns more into a learning experience than actually getting the work done. And at the end of the day, you still end up doing it manually. There's of course instances like that, but I feel like come with anything, right? You're just like, there's a learning curve and you're trying to learn as much as possible. The problem, or not the problem, but I think one of the core reasons is that with the prompt-based interfaces, I think it's almost like Pandora's box of possibilities. So it's harder to set up those sequences and those processes without actually taking the time to dive deeply and build a system that you know is repeatable and that will work. Which I found is actually it's much easier now. I think over the last like 4 or 5 months, I think that we've seen that it's easier to do that type of work and not just going to ChatGPT and prompting it, hey, like help me write a LinkedIn post really quick.
Yeah. And I think that the market is, and generally people have been more aware, where like when Google first came out, right? Whenever people gave a research, or like Wikipedia came out, people will just copy paste everything from Wikipedia and put it into a report and call it a report. And now people don't do that because they are able to realize that, okay, I have the skills now to go and refine that and bring 5 things together and give my own input and have my own language and have my own insights in there. So same like that, John and I, we're working on a white paper right now, and we can talk about, and we're spending days and days reviewing that word by word, and of course we're taking help from AI to refine that. Even in the image, like, we use Claude to help with the images, but then if the final output always goes through our designer and she works on her own version of that, right? So I think that's the way to do it, where we definitely spend a lot of time reviewing it. Now, the research that I had to do to write that paper, it went from 3 days to 3 hours. And because I was able to compile all that information to one place, right? And that I can do that while I'm having and feeding my baby, actually. So that's the power that Claude gives me right now, where I can have a baby in one hand and then I can do the research on the other hand, but the final output is definitely something that we take it very seriously, and we go through every word by word to clean it up and to perfect it, actually. So segue that into the next topic, which is we wanted to talk about Safety Week. So Safety Week is celebrated every year, and we talk about safety all the time. Is also a safety product. Our primary buyers, our ICPs, our safety managers, head of safety. We just had an event last month where we brought safety managers from several companies into our office, and we got their feedback, and we had some awesome time with these customers when they came to our office. So, and this is where the other part comes in about, can LLM do predictive analytics, right? And something that we've chatted about before as well, but we really don't think that LLM is the way to go, because predictions are done on something beyond just a language model. Yes, language can be used to structure the unstructured data and read the news and read the market, read the paper, digitize the documents, but ultimately the whole buzz around LLM, we have to go to a slightly different model right now, where how do we do predictive analytics for safety? Because that's what we hear all the time. And every day I go to LinkedIn and every day I go to an event, all the conversations are around LLM. How to read a drawing, how to do a better estimate, or how to generate reports and build the LLM wrapper around existing data. And I'm thinking, God, that is just the one fraction of the AI. I think the real AI, I wouldn't call it real AI, but the AI has so much other fractions and branches to that that's what Kwant is working on, and we've been working on for quite a while. So Jay, can LLM do predictions?
I mean, definitely not. Like LLM itself are language models. Like if you plug a language model, it can help you write the code to help you make the model, help you categorize the data, help you make structured data sets, like read through hundreds of documents, find anomalies on those documents. But in itself, it's not it's just a language, right? Like there isn't any model that is hosted within an LLM.
Yeah.
You still have to build your own models. Like, let's say, if you talk about any regression modeling, it can help you create those regression parameters. It can help you understand how you're doing regression, or even time series forecasting. It can help you understand what is that time frame, what are you trying to project, how to make that, how to build that, what kind of data sets you need. Like, for example, in construction, helping tag activities, helping flag errors in JHAs, pre-task assessments, permits, like flagging those things, helping you create those data sets. Yeah, definitely it can help that. But by virtue in itself, it's not like a modeling service.
So would that be AGI? Jay, is that when you start going into that realm of whatever you want to use to define AGI?
The definition of AGI is so loose because like
Yeah.
I think around a year back when Sam Altman was in one of his podcasts, he was saying that AGI could be like if any of these models have a knowledge of a 4-year-old kid and you can teach that kid to grow up and all that, like make them learn. Because then, yeah, it's a artificial general intelligence, but then the definition of that AGI becomes loose enough that what do you define AGI as? Like,
Yeah.
can it be that general intelligence? Does it need to be human intelligence? Because as a human intelligence, like the idea of machine learning and like neural models was to replicate what we do using machines. So yeah, in future, yes, probably, but it's like that's where the whole concept of multimodal models came into being, like where you are reading images, voice all together in one go and created multimodal. That's what we use right now. Let's see how it progresses, but like I think for now, the idea is that it can help you do a lot of things that requires you to do prediction, but it's not in itself a modeling service that you will use it to run. Like there is no machine learning model built in itself that you say, okay, these are my 10 data sets, predict how many incidents are going to happen. What would be my incident rate for the next few months?
Yeah. There is so much nuances around construction project that when you talk about AGI, right, it can learn from just the data sets you've been given. But there is so much uniqueness every project that I think that it needs to go into the super intelligence level than a general intelligence level. Because general intelligence cannot fix construction. Only super intelligence can fix construction. And I read this book, Super Intelligence, like several years ago. I think it was when AI was just starting at that point, So in that part, John, do you think that construction prediction and safety prediction can be done just using historical data, or you need some extra data points like real-time data points like Kwant has, and how does Kwant become the most unique product in the market with the hardware and the software we have?
Yeah, I mean, you know my stance on this, and obviously everyone's going to think I'm biased, but I mean, the real-time data, you can't deny that real-time data is essential in making predictions. The more real-time your data is, the better and the more accurate your predictions are going to be, at least for the short term, because in safety, that's one of the most important things is in a shorter time period, how can we predict the higher risk activities or the higher risk of something happening? So then at least you can staff up and know the locations to go inspect, or know the crews that you want to keep an eye on, or do an audit for, stuff like that. Because you can always run a model at the beginning of the project and say, here's my risk score. It's going to be, 25% chance of this, or, add some extra costs for this type of, whatever. And that's like a generalization that you almost get like in trouble for not either using all the money or hitting your risk goal at the end. So I think that dialing it into shorter time periods, it absolutely requires real-time data. And just like I like to use the stock market as an example, because in a world where it's impossible to make predictions, right? Past performance is not an indication of the future and future results. And so the best companies out there and the ones that make the most money just have the most up-to-date and quickest models, even to a fraction of a second. If one person's firm is using software that's a fraction of a second faster than another person, they're going to make millions more. They're going to reign supreme over everyone. It's unfair. So it holds true, I think, in every single market for predictions.
Yeah, and I think we should end on that, which is that's why we named Kwant, right? Because that's what the Wall Street traders did. Like they used quants to trade at high velocity and real time, and that's how Mr. Bloomberg, had this whole Bloomberg portal for fast quantum-based trading, and we want to bring that to construction. Like, why wait for 1 month before you make a decision about getting delayed or making a decision about having a safety incident? Do it in real time, right? And I think the market is finally getting ready, and we're super excited about it, actually.
I think there's a lot of systems that can go into place using our type of technology that can definitely increase the likelihood of making good enough predictions to prevent safety incidents and not just having a generalization at the beginning of the project. Of course, there's always going to be high-risk activities, but then if you can shorten that window to a point where I think eventually one day we'll have it short enough that you'll be able to go out and make a discovery or make a decision that prevents safety incidents from happening, and proven to do that, getting closer and closer to that, to the point where we'll be able to do that very soon.
Yeah, awesome. Sounds good, guys. Well, amazing episode. Great talking to you like every day. So we'll catch up again soon. Thank you, everybody.